Broadcasting to you live from the Paddock Mall. We're streaming live, YouTube Live, WOKA The Source Radio, as we have been giving you the weather updates. And if those out there right now, it is still 74 degrees, but it is starting to rain just a little bit as we're looking out the window now. And it's raining pretty good there for a little bit, as they were talking about more showers possibly after even 11 a.m., as they have that even happening now. But nonetheless, stay dry and be careful out there. As we're moving on with our Wednesday show, as up next, as a little interesting here, you've been hearing the advertisements a little bit, or at least the ads we've been running, as we've got author Corey Cepeda here on the phone to talk about the 5-part series, the book La Familia, Loose Ends, which is some fascinating stuff here. Partner, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. How are we doing today? I got you beat on the weather. So we, here in Minnesota, that's where I'm located right now, we got 3 inches of snow yesterday. It's currently I think 32 degrees, and we're supposed to get severe shower and thunderstorms today. So have fun with your 74-degree weather down there.
Absolutely, my friend. We will, and I know we've been talking about it. We got some listeners, one that just called in before the top of the hour, who has family in the Wisconsin area, and I had looked on radar there about a day ago and had seen some of the snow moving through, and I had looked up Minneapolis's forecast, and this week has not been kind to you guys as far as it being so early in October to have so much of the cooler weather and snow, and now, like you said, that precipitation that is just cold enough too that it feels down to your bones, but still just not quite enough sometimes to snow where it's that sleet stuff, which we feel for you, my friend.
Yes, it is a little early in the season for us, but hey, it'll rain today, melt it all away, and then we'll get it back in a couple other weeks. So that's what we're used to up here.
That's right. Nonetheless, well, my friend, we brought you on here to talk in the first book of the 5-part series, La Familia, Loose Ends, as we are going to introduce readers to a ruling family reigning terror over Mexico, and this is suspense thriller here wrapped up. This is awesome. This is good stuff. I'm going to leave you to go ahead and start talking about it.
Yeah, thank you. So you're exactly right. This first book in this 5-part series really introduces the world to this very dysfunctional and very violent family, the De Los Santos family. Historically, Mexico has seen a lot of bloody and gruesome wars from multiple drug cartels fighting, from different territories: Sinaloa, Juarez, Tijuana, Guadalajara, Mexico City. But I thought, what would it look like if one singular family managed to dominate and decimate all other rivals? And that's really where the premise of this story comes from. One regime has managed to take out all the competition in Mexico and become this kind of unstoppable dynasty. And by proxy, they start to control the global drug trade, the global market, if you will. And that's where this family kicks in, the De Los Santos family. So you have this father, Vicente, who is a very, narcissistic, uncaring person about, pretty much everything in his life other than his daughter, who we'll talk about in just a second. But he really only cares about 2 things: power, money, and his little girl. He rules his country with an absolute iron fist. He has no mercy for those that oppose him. He has managed to, kill anything in his path, and now he sits on top of the throne, if you will. He has by his, right-hand side his son, Ignacio, who is a very fierce soldier, an apex predator. Ignacio has been raised by his father to be a killer, to be a murderer, to pretty much mirror his father, Vicente. Ignacio is very focused and driven on helping the family maintain that power. However, Ignacio also secretly hates his father. because of the disrespect and humiliation that his father gives him, sometimes openly and publicly. Ignacio feels that, it's his time to shine also. It's his time to run the family empire, and he feels, that he can do it better than his father. So Ignacio will secretly hatch these plots and concoct these plans to kill his father. Unbeknownst to Vicente, Vicente will have no idea that this influx of violence and assassination attempts are coming from his son. So he's going to have to start maneuvering. Vicente's going to have to start maneuvering these landmines, if you will, all the while the enemy is, right next to him. Vicente has another son, Santino, the younger son, who has grown up in a very privileged lifestyle. He's benefited from the money and the cars. He's a very good-looking young man who, has had no problems with the ladies. But as he's grown up, he's also seeing, the destruction his family has caused to his country, the despair his family has seeded in his country. And that hurts him very deeply because he loves his country. He wants to see his country prosper. And that starts a very conflicted Santino. He wants to grow up to be a man that cleans his country up and provides clean water and better housing and education and so on. And this is where Santino becomes very conflicted and in his own way will challenge his father for authority, because he wants to do better in spite of his family, yet he's still haunted by his last name. His family's last name is very synonymous with, death and murder and destruction and all these things. So Santino has to figure out a way to navigate a better life for himself and to bring his country out of this doom and gloom while, challenging his father, which he's going to find is a very daunting task. Vicente has a brother himself, Aurelio, who is intelligent, very intelligent, smart, honest lieutenant in the Sinaloa State Police, and that's where I base this family out of, Sinaloa. He cannot be corrupted. He's very, very straightforward, law-abiding. He fights every single day to clean his country up. He too, like Santino, wants to see his country rise to the limelight again. And unfortunately for Aurelio, he's not only fighting his brother, Vicente, but he's fighting all of the crooked police and politicians and judges and lawyers and everything he's surrounded by every single day, because they're all in the pocket of his brother. So he's very much a man of morals and principles, but he has to figure out a way to kind of do an end around to clean his country up. And he wants to bring his brother to justice, but he also wants to do it without tearing his family apart. He loves his family, but he doesn't want to see his family completely destroyed either. Without any strong man, there has to be a strong woman, and that's where Gabriela comes in, Vicente's wife. She is definitely not your stay-at-home housewife who bakes cookies. She is very cunning, every bit as a savage business partner as her husband. She stands by his side through everything, helping him rise to power, and she asks permission from no one. She would rather, ask for forgiveness than beg for permission, and I love that statement. But on the other hand, she is a mother. She's very passionate about her family. She wants to stay in power and see her family stay in the spotlight of power that they're in, but she too doesn't want to see her family implode with all the infighting. So it kind of begs to ask the question, what choices is she going to have to make when it comes down to it? Is she going to ultimately have to choose to, stay in power with her family and the prominence, or is she going to choose to be that matriarch, that maternal mother? Which side of the scale is her loyalty is going to balance on? And then lastly, there's Lucida. And I kind of mentioned her with Vicente a little earlier. Lucida is a 10-year-old little girl. She just wants to be a little girl. I introduce her at 10 in this first book. She wants to play with friends, live her life. have fun. She's very oblivious to the violence and the ruthlessness that surrounds her. But unfortunately, very unfortunately for Lucida, is she's going to learn very quickly that being the daughter of, the most powerful drug lord in all of Mexico, you simply cannot live a normal life. There is no such a thing. She is going to very, very quickly and violently going to get sucked in and used as a pawn in some very dangerous and deadly games that have very unimaginable ripple effects throughout the whole series of the book. And that's kind of the setup of this first book. Is when you read the first chapter, it comes from a very violent place. And that first introduction, and I don't want to give it away because it's pretty graphic for those of you that aren't into it. This may not be your cup of tea. For those of you that love suspense and action, this is right up your alley. But that first opening scene really sets the tone for the whole series of the books, because what happens in the first book has a specific ramification to the second book. The second book will ripple into the third and the fourth and so on. Now, each individual book stands alone in and of itself by plot and how things unfold, but they're all impacted from the book previous to it. And that's what this first book really does, is it kind of launches everything into overdrive. So you're dealing with some very gripping storylines. You have two sons that are challenging their father for power and control for very opposite reasons. You have brothers clashing, Ignacio and Santino, who look at each other in two very different ways. They're both very strong physically. They're probably equally matched mentally. They couldn't be more worlds apart. They will clash and collide in very biblical, epic fashion. Vicente and Aurelio clash in very, powerful ways, both on opposite ends of the law, the spectrum of the law. So you have brothers that, have very interwoven storylines. You have Gabriella, who's this, very powerful, loving mother who hates to see her sons fight and argue. How will she feel about her husband? How does she feel about her daughter and staying in power? As I kind of mentioned earlier, what's her storyline? How will her loyalties lie? And then, you just think of all the potential tragic collision courses that are set into motion here, the spider web formations, if you will. It can only end one way, really. It's going to be heartbreak and betrayal and agony and devastation. And I want to write this. I should say I am writing this from a position where I want readers to feel torn and conflicted and sometimes rooting for the bad guy, because some of the things that happens in these books, the bad guy might be the good guy just for a little bit, but it definitely goes back to the bad guy. But I want to take readers on a very high intensity roller coaster of emotions. And when you read this first book, I think you're going to walk away thinking, wow, this family is really dysfunctional. They're really complicated. They're really complex. It's got some very much real-world application in how cartels operate today. All of this is definitely based in fiction. I've written nobody in the shadows of any real-life people, although I think some people might be able to make comparisons to some of the previous and past drug lords that have existed, but everybody is definitely just out of my mind. And I want people just to walk away saying, wow, this is a really gripping storyline that has just some really interesting, unique plot points. And we're just going to have a fun ride with it. This is going to be really an incredible journey.
Absolutely. It sounds incredible. I wanted to touch on the mentioning that you've had this story in your head, you said, for years. And then after a recent career break, you said that it was time to put the pen to paper. And some of your inspiration, as mentioned, coming from a couple popular TV shows, one that was absolutely huge, Breaking Bad. I know that was one of your muses in the idea.
Yep, absolutely. So as I in a previous life, and I call it a previous life when in reality it was maybe only a couple years ago, I had worked in the biopharmaceutical industry, and which gave me no time to really do anything to other focus on that. But I always had this voice in my head saying, you need to write this, you need to write this. And last year I just decided, okay, it's time to give my brain a breather, give my family a breather. And I walked away from my career, my journey. And I last summer, I sat down on my couch, I cracked open my computer, and I just started typing. And inside the first hour, I had my first 15 pages written. Oh, wow. And it went from there. And as I'm writing this, I said, I want to combine the things that I have found to be very gripping and compelling and heartbreaking and exciting and where you can see the potential collision courses happening in front of you. And so when I wrote this, I thought, yes, I want to write this from a place where I was just as compelled when I watched Breaking Bad as I was when I watched Sons of Anarchy or The Sopranos or Dexter or any of these other amazing shows, Queen of the South, where people can see on the horizon the collision courses and the tragedies and the events that are going to unfold and keep you on the edge of your seat where you want to tune in and you want to turn the next page to see what's going to happen. So I was very influenced by those shows, and I'm actually watching Sons of Anarchy again for I think the sixth time. Breaking Bad I've watched a limited amount of times. And yeah, I say, I want people, if you haven't seen those shows, please definitely do go watch them and you'll understand why they influenced me. Sure. Because I want to write just as gripping, compelling storylines as those amazing writers produced and wrote, and that's the kind of the feel I want everybody to have is, wow, this is really, truly amazing content.
When you mentioned the characters in your book, when it came down to, like you said, cracking up the laptop and getting to writing, as you mentioned, kind of like the first 15 pages kind of flowed, but did you back up at all and say, okay, I want to outline and set up and develop each character, or did you just kind of run with it and the characters kind of developed on their own as you were writing?
Nope, everything flowed off the top of my head, and it still does. I wrote this first book in 3 months, which is crazy to me to think about. Oh, yeah. And I actually could have written it earlier, but I didn't want to feel like I was forcing the dialogue or forcing the conversation. So there were actually times when I would just walk away from it and not do anything with it until it felt like the right time. Sure. So I would come back, and every single time I opened my laptop, it would just spill out of me. So after I finished that first book, Loose Ends, I took maybe a couple months break, and then I immediately started on the second one, which is now done and completed and going through its editing at this point. So I actually wrote the first 2 books in about a 6th to 7th month period. And everything I do just comes instinctually. It comes right off the top of my head. What I find interesting as I'm writing all of these books is the first book to me was very contained, and readers will know what I mean by that. It takes place in a very specific element with the first introduction of the characters. So it was very, very simplistic for me just to focus and spotlight on them. As I write the second book, I introduce a couple new characters to this storyline, but I now have to expand my horizons a little bit and add people that I hadn't initially anticipated adding before. As I'm outlining the third book, I'm introducing a lot of new characters to the third book because they play a very pivotal role in how storylines need to crash on top of each other. So it might take a little bit more effort for me to come up with how I want the dialogues to sound and how people will interact with each other. But every way I write, every person I write for, Vicente, Ignacio, Santino, whomever, it just comes very freely to me. It's nothing that I say, I want them to sound this way or that way. I say to myself, how would these 2 people talk? And that's exactly the way I make it sound.
Absolutely. Now, like you mentioned too, with what you've been doing in your career with the pharmaceutical industry, have you written anything prior to the series that you're getting into, or was this something that is kind of like your initiation, so to speak, in diving into it like you are?
This was definitely my baptism by fire. I have written nothing up to this point other than a few college papers, but on the scale and level of this, I have not even come close to this arena. So in full transparency, it's a little unsettling to kind of put yourself out there exposed to the world in your first attempt, but it's, you got to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to put yourself in situations that are a little uncomfortable so you can grow and develop as a person. So this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. For me, it's been a very cathartic experience. Writing about these characters, I put my own very personal information in the openings of these books about my background and how I grew up in a domestically violent household, but I was able to break that cycle. It's just been a very awesome journey to sit and write and escape. And I now really understand what people talk about when they say, it's when you escape into your mind and start writing, it's just a whole different world. You see things in a very different light and context, and it's pretty awesome to bring these fictional characters to life when you've never done anything like this before. So yeah, this is a new experience for me. Every book is definitely going to be grander and more epic as they get written, and I'm completely excited, and I'm interested in myself to see how this journey ends, because I don't know how I'm going to bring conclusion to all of this yet. I think I know how I would like for this to end. But at the same time, I want to get better, and I want to write more. And as I write these books, I want to make sure that I'm doing good with my books too, which is part of the reason I'm, donating the proceeds, 50% of my proceeds of any of my book sales, ebook or hard copy, to fight human sex trafficking. I'll tell you what, it's so much more important for me as a father, as a man, as a husband, to leave a strong legacy behind for, my wife, my kids, and anybody else in the world that has been affected by this just absolutely ugly, disgusting thing, sex trafficking, than to sell 1 billion books. My legacy means more to me than anything I can describe, and that's why I feel so compelled to do this, to write and do some good with my books. I don't want this just to be, oh, hey, I had an awakening one day and I decided to write books, and here, everybody, buy my books. If I can do just a little bit of good in this world to, help other people that have been affected by human sex trafficking, to help people that have been scarred by this, then I would like to think that when I die, when I pass, and God says to me, hey, what did you do with your life? I can say I've earned my place at the table of humanity somewhere. So for me, this is first-time journey. It's really exciting. And I just want to do good. I want to do right by the people who buy my books. I want to do right by the people that have been affected by human sex trafficking. So yeah, this is definitely an incredible experience so far.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time, partner. It sounds exciting, and it sounds riveting, and I'm thrilled that you were able to dive in and feel it come to fruition. A lot of good stuff there. It's getting great reviews so far on Amazon, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I look forward to the next time I come on and we talk about the next book's release as well.
Absolutely. Well, you take care, my friend. Have a good rest of the week.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
WOCA, more coming your way. Back after this.
So much to take advantage of, like $0 copays on hundreds of prescription drugs.
Wow.
Pick up at your local pharmacy or take advantage of free delivery. To learn more, visit AdvantageWow.com.
Wow.
That's AdvantageWow.com.
$0 copay may be restricted to particular tiers, preferred medications, or mail-order prescriptions during the initial coverage phase and may not apply during the coverage gap or catastrophic stage. Free delivery with preferred mail-order pharmacies.
Wow.
Walgreens.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
There's a staycation right here in town. It's Super 8 Motel Ocala, right down the road on 40, just west of I-75. And they're pet friendly. Have truck parking, free breakfast, a swimming pool, a kiddie pool, and veterans get 10% off. It's a staycation at Super 8 Ocala. Call today, Super 8 Ocala at 352-629-8794. Again, 352-629-8794.
The NFL Alumni is sponsoring a Clay for Kids sporting event to benefit Champions for Champions. The event will take place at the Robinson Ranch in Inglis, Florida
on Saturday, October 24th.
Call 866-996-2182 for details. The NFL Alumni will provide gift bags, breakfast, lunch, and prizes. Call 866-996-2182 for details. Clay for Kids. Call 866-996-2182 for details. Hosted by the NFL Alumni.
WOCA.
Veterans Helping Veterans USA. Call 352-433-2320. We help veterans and their families with limited financial assistance, counseling, employment referrals, and a food and clothing bank. You can help in making a huge difference in the veterans' lives we serve by donating food, clothing, household items, or direct financial assistance. All donations are tax deductible. Veterans Helping Veterans USA. 352-433-2320. Thank you for your attention, and God bless America.
WOCA.
You're getting ready to move and you work hard. That's why you call Two Men in a Truck, 352-289-0666. You need pros. Trained professional moving experts to do the heavy lifting for you. That's why you call Two Men in a Truck, 352-289-0666. They care about your things as much as you do, and they do it fast and right. That's why you call Two Men in a Truck, 352-289-0666. Visit twomeninatruck.com and get moving.
2 Men in a Truck.
Career Source, Citrus, Levy, Marion brings together business and community partners, economic development leaders, and educational providers to connect employers with qualified, skilled talent and job seekers with employment and career development opportunities. Tune in the first Wednesday of each month at 9:30 to Career Source, Citrus, Levy, Marion, and learn how they can help you.
Last week in the WOCA High School Football Game of the Week presented by McCarson Electric, the Wolfpack improved to 3-1 with a shutout win against Lake Weir.
Savino's in shotgun. He's going to give it to Hopkins, who heads over the left side. He's got a huge hole, breaks a tackle and puts his head down and gets into the end zone. Touchdown, Westport.
The WOCA High School Football Game of the Week is presented by McCarson Electric, proudly serving Marion County for over 30 years. McCarson Electric for all of your commercial, industrial, and residential needs. Call McCarson Electric at 352-812-4486. This week, the Wolfpack are back home as they face the Forest Wildcats. It's the High School Football Game of the Week presented by McCarson Electric. Pre-game starts at 6:30. Kickoff is at 7. Join me, Galen Unold, and John Ivory for the High School Football Game of the Week right here on WOCA, The Source. It's the Forest Wildcats against the Westport Wolfpack. And you can hear it all right here on WOCA, The Source.
When it really counts, depend on The Source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
Oh, hey, Grandpa. Oh, hey, Grandpa. Hey, Grandpa.
Yes, buddy?
Can you take me fishing this weekend?
I'd love to.
Have you noticed a change in your hearing over the years? Missing the little things in life? Visit Beneficial Hearing in Ocala today. Their expert team of audiologists will make sure you